Welcome to episode 6 of Thrashcast. My name is Billy, and I'm here with my co-hosts Jim and Ken. How are you guys doing today?
Very
Awesome.
good.
Great. We got another great topic today. Uh, but before we get there, just wanted to thank everyone for tuning in last week, our Heathen podcast. And if you want to check that podcast out or any of the others, you can find us at www.horrormetalsounds.com or check us out on our YouTube channel, Horror Metal Sounds at Kenji dot 2864. All our podcasts are stored there. So, in terms of topics this week, so another classic thrash band. What a surprise!
Mhm.
Thrash, yeah, that's our name of our channel. So the
Yep.
band is an OG one for sure, Overkill. So we've been in Germany for a while. Then we did Heathen. Now we're Overkill. And our album focus will be 1991 Horoscope album. So I know amongst the three of us, we did have a little bit of debate this album or Years of Decay, but we decided to go with Horoscope. And then we have the tough task, or at least speaking for myself, a tough task of ranking all count them 20 studio albums from Overkill. And so I guess either Ken or Jim, I was thinking of this as I was dialing in. So 20 studio albums, that's pretty crazy. Like off the
Yep.
top of my head, like I'm thinking what other thrash bands would come close to 20? Like I can't like I know
No, there
Jackson
isn't.
has way over 20, but that's not
Mhm.
thrash. Like
No,
I don't think anyone comes close, right?
Nope.
no. I think that they hold the record for most thrash
Yeah.
albums.
Like
I'm pretty
maybe
sure.
like
I'm pretty sure.
even more
On the
than 10
American
is
side.
hard.
What's that?
Even more than 10 or 12 would be tough.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know. Yeah, I think on the American side they hold the record. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Germans, maybe the Germans are close behind, but
Like Sodom we did was what, like 18, and that was the
Yeah.
yeah,
Creator
yeah,
was like 15 if
yeah,
I
yeah,
Yeah.
remember right. So yeah, this seems to be the record. So but that's okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so tough task to rank these albums. I mean, certainly my view, there's not a lot of weak Overkill albums out there.
No.
They've sort of been a pillar of strength over the decades.
Absolutely, for
Yeah.
sure.
Super consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for
Yep.
sure. So before we dive into the overkill topic, let's begin with our what's spinning news items. So I'm going to go to you first, Ken. Why don't you kick it off?
Sure. So I have a couple this week. So I did have a chance to listen to be a part of the listening party for Ravage. Now Ravage is an American band from Boston. They sort of play thrash, traditional metal, a little bit of speed metal. They've been around since 1995. They have four, like I said, they have four albums out. The new one is coming out actually tomorrow, so which is great. So I had a chance to to go to the listening party, listen to the album, and yeah, I'm really excited for this band. I have their previous album here, as you can see, if you can just look
Oh,
up,
wicked.
yeah, from 2009, The End of Tomorrow, which is a really good album. So they've had some time in between records, of course. Um, so I'm looking forward to it. The new record. Well, like I said, it comes out tomorrow. It has a cover from Andreas Marshall, who we were discussing working on the Creator and Sodom covers. So he did this cover for them. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I like this band quite a bit, and I'm glad they're still like kicking around doing music. So yeah, that's coming out. And my other topic, I don't have a CD in front of me. I wish I did, but Cerebral Scar has just released their new EP. And for those who don't know, the Cerebral Scar is fronted by Meat Hook Mike, who happens to be one of the writers on my site. I've known Mike for years. Mike has been a part of a band called Meat Train from the UK, which is kind of sort of a play of a Clive Barker title from one of his short stories. The I've known Mike for years. So Mike is now in a new band, Cerebral Scar, sort of play kind of like metalcore, groove, kind of thrash. They kind of call it thrashcore, which is I can understand because Mike is about our age, so he's really into all the kind of thrash bands and seen all the thrash bands that we've seen and have been discussing on the channel. So I think it's kind of cool. Yeah, so it's an EP. It's actually 4 songs. It's called Follow the Liar. It came out a few weeks ago, so you can get it on their Bandcamp page. I think you can now order CDs since they have signed to a record label. 1054 Records in Australia is where they are now. So it's great. We're hoping for big things for the band. I love the style. It's 4 songs, kick-ass music all the way through. Very kind of growly, sort of. It's more growly vocals, but Mike does a really good job with it. And yeah, so that's my 2 news items for this week.
All right. Thanks for that, Ken. How about you, Jim?
Yeah, a couple of things. First, just an update from the last podcast where we talked about Voivod's We Are Connected. Their Kickstarter campaign is up to over 22,000 now. So they're at just over a week to go to hit their goal. So, everybody get out there and donate. Let's get this done. Another quick news item, just a quick release, and then I'll just go into what I'm spinning. Kerry King's new band released Residue, a new single last Friday. It was pretty cool. Another banger of a track. Kind of reminds me of post-2000 Slayer. But still, I really, really like it. Definitely check it out. It's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to the album. I think the album is going to be released on May 17th, I believe. So, just around a month to go. So that's going to be pretty cool. And what I got in the mail just today, actually, and it kind of worked out great, is I got my Tortured Demon CDs, and I got them signed, actually. So really, really cool. And so these guys here, they're a UK thrashcore band. Really, really awesome. Their albums, I've got 2 full-length albums, which I got here. In 2021, In Desperation's Grip, which is this one, really, really cool. And then the 2023 release, Rise of the Lifeless. So really, really cool stuff. I suggest anybody, all thrash fans, metal fans, check these guys out. They're just young band, young guys. I mean, some of them I think are still in high school. Really, really cool. And you can check out on YouTube. They played Bloodstock, I believe, in 2021. And it was really cool. So they played at noon, I guess, on the Jägermeister stage, which would be probably a smaller stage from what I could tell.
Yeah.
And they crammed so many fans in there. There was about 2,000 to 3,000 fans that early in the afternoon. And they put on such a banger show that they had to repair the stage and the front of the stage and that. So it was pretty cool. And I think they played Bloodstock a couple of times. They're on tour throughout the UK constantly. They've toured with Zentrix, all kinds of, these guys are really, really cool. You can pick up their merchandise. You can pick up their CDs on their website. It was awesome. Very well priced and total communication. I got to thank Joe Parkinson, the drummer, who was in touch with me, and I'd asked, would it be possible to get the CD signed? Just be kind of cool. And oh yeah, no problem. And I love bands like this. And you know what? These guys, from the sound of them, I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with down the line. These guys, are definitely the future of some of the thrash metal that I'm listening to from some of the new releases. And these guys at the start of their career and are just absolutely kicking ass. So awesome stuff.
Oh, yeah, cool. I don't know them. I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, I when Jim mentioned it, I did give them a spin on YouTube. Yeah, it's really good stuff. Yeah, it's really solid thrash. I like it a lot. I haven't ordered their CDs, but I should probably do the same.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And like I say, I think this is going to be, you get some really good thrash out of the UK. I think this is just going to, it's just awesome. It's great for the movement to have young guys like this who are so into it and are doing such a great job with it. So awesome.
But Jim, is it true that some of them they're in high school? Some of these guys?
I think so. Some of them, I believe, cool. Or they just finished. I think, but some of them are only 18, I believe. So they're really, really young, and it's pretty cool. I was like, great, that's neat. when I read their bio and that, but pretty awesome, pretty awesome.
That was the
So,
case
so
with Death Angel too, I think, right?
yeah,
That's right.
Like they couldn't even get in the clubs technically. They
Nope.
were underage.
yeah, because wasn't the drummer Andy? Wasn't he 15
Yeah,
when he
Yeah,
something like
started?
that. Yeah.
I think he was 15 when he
Yeah.
started drumming for the band,
yeah.
which
When
is
the
crazy when you
Ultraviolence
think
came out.
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy,
yeah.
but you know that's cool.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, no, I'll check them out. Anything else on your side, Jim?
That's everything, man. That's everything.
Okay, cool. For my couple minutes, I was just going to, I was just recently at another metal fest, so I was going to give just a quick rundown, just in case anyone might be interested in attending next year or any other year. So I was just at the Decibel Metal and Beer Fest. I mean, if I think about rank things I really love, metal and beer rank right up there. So this is a bit of a no-brainer for me. It's an annual festival. I mean, Decibel, you might recognize that name. They're the magazine that's out there. So they do a knock-up job running this festival. It's in Philadelphia. So Philadelphia is an amazing city. I mean, I lived there for a decade, so I might be a bit biased, but yeah, great event. It's officially 2 days. It's Friday and Saturday. It starts around 4:30 and goes till like 11:30. And then they always have Thursday night, a bit of a pre-event. Pretty affordable show. I mean, you're getting two, pretty full days of bands for about $90.
Wow.
Those of us who are Canadian, that's 90 US, so a little bit more than that. But they also have a more expensive ticket if you wanted to take part in the beer fest, which is pretty cool because all the really good US craft beer breweries, they do collaborations with the bands. So you'll be like drinking an Enforced beer or a Dying Fetus beer or a Deicide beer. So it's pretty cool, and the beer is really good. I didn't do the beer event this time, but I've done it a few other years. That's probably at least like an extra $100. But if memory serves me right, it's pretty much all you could drink. They give you these little like sample glasses, and you just keep going back with your glass. So it's kind of cool. With respect to the pre-fest, it was pretty death metal heavy. I know we're a thrash show here, but the two main bands I caught, the headliners were Undeath, which was a
Oh,
pretty
nice.
good death metal. They were pretty
Yeah.
hot. And then Philly's own death metal band, Outer Heaven.
Oh,
So both of those were really good shows. There were about two or three openers, but it was at one of my old like beer hangouts, so I was a little late getting there. Friday was an interesting day. Like they tend to group bands. I don't know if theme's the right word, but similar styles. So Friday was very heavy on either like hardcore bands or like deathcore or metalcore or something on that front. But it's, probably the best bands I saw that day were Biohazard, who I think everybody surely knows, a hardcore metal band. Hardcore thrash crossover Enforced. They were
Oh yeah.
fantastic. And then sort of a death metal meets hardcore internal bleeding. They were pretty
ooh, yeah,
impressive as
cool.
well. So that was really good. Another show that was, jam packed was the band Crowbar.
Oh
They
yeah.
put on a good show. They played only songs from the first two albums. I don't mind them, but I'm probably not the biggest fan, to be honest. But yeah, the first day was really good. Those were kind of the highlights. Day two was where it was at for me. That was the worth the price of admission alone. We ended up like towards the end of the night, the last four bands. We see, it was 200 stab wounds,
Oh,
uh,
wicked.
two
Yeah,
molds, Dying Fetus, and Deicide. Uh,
cool.
I mean, talk about like a rip your head off death metal night, right? Like
The lineup is
the
killer.
yeah, like
Yeah.
two of the best old school and two of the best new school
Yeah.
death metal, and both Deicide and Dying Fetus only played old material. It was a dedication to the first two or three albums of each of the bands, so that was amazing. One of the
Cool.
highlights to see those four bands, and Tumult really knocked my socks off. I wasn't expecting
Yeah,
that, like with the level of like progressiveness and technicality. Like, yeah, I was saying to you guys, I need to spend a bit more time with that band because
you should.
yeah, yeah, I
You
think
should.
both liked them, eh?
Yeah,
Yep,
the
yep,
latest album was awesome. Like I think I
yep.
had it in my top 10 or something. Yeah, or top 15. It's a great album.
It was in my top 10. Was my number one pick of the year for
Oh,
metal
there you
There
go.
you
today.
Yeah, I
go.
remember
Yeah.
now. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I
So
loved it. I loved it a lot. I was blown away by it. But I liked
Yeah.
their last album too. So the previous
yeah,
album was really, really good.
yeah.
And then the album before that's also good. They haven't put out one bad album yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, I got to spend some time with them. So yeah, that was kind of it for the days. I would say, from a venue perspective, this thing takes place at the Philadelphia Fillmore, and the Fillmore is like sort of they're out in California and all over.
Mm,
A lot of like it really is a legendary venue. Like many of the top live albums from like the
Hmm.
70s and the 80s were all filmed often at Fillmore locations. So it's pretty cool. The sound incredible, lighting incredible. It's a huge space for death metal. It holds about 2,500 people, but it never felt overly crowded. And the layout's incredible. Like, yeah, so you got the whole concert area, but then there's a massive space out front where everyone was selling the merch and all that stuff. So it's not crowded in like most metal venues. And probably
mhm.
the highlight of the festival for me was they had Scott Burns, who's famous death metal producer, who pretty much produced every, whether it be Obituary or Sepultura or every band that we all love. He was sort of recorded their album. So he was there actually talking to people and signing his book. I'd highly recommend
Nice.
checking out his book. It basically tells the life of basically 10 years of him recording every famous like death metal and sort of heavy thrash band that was out there. So that was really cool. Got a chance to talk to him a bit about Obituary. He signed the book, so that was all cool. So yeah, I would highly recommend it to folks and any of our American friends. Like a lot of people I met were coming in from New York and all surrounding areas. So if you get a chance, I think it's definitely worth checking out. They really run a great festival. Everything went off without a hitch, so perfection.
Right on.
Nice.
Cool.
Cool.
Um, So yeah, so let's jump back to Overkill. So as we always do, we'll start with the bio. I just jotted down a couple notes here. So Overkill, I think we all know, formed in New Jersey, 1980. Bassist D.D. Verney and Bobby Blitz on vocals are the two original members, and really the fathers of Overkill. Also interesting, I went back and I knew they were main songwriters, but it didn't click on me until I looked. Like they basically write almost every song together uh,
Hmm.
through all the albums, so that's pretty cool. I mean, in the guitarist spot and the drummer, they've gone through many members over the decades, lots of different record labels. Yeah, I think it's probably safe to say, along with Anthrax and Nuclear Assault. Overkill are like the leaders of the East Coast
Yep.
thrash scene. I mean, there were a lot of other bands like SOD and MOD and some of those bands, but those were the three big guys. We already talked about it, 20 studio albums. I mean, that's just incredible. And even the latest album last year, Scorched,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a torture of an album. They're still
Yep.
going
Yeah.
strong. I mean, the current lineup today is Bobby on vocals, DD on bass, Jason Bittner on drums, Dave Link on guitar, and David Taylor on guitar. And I can say firsthand, these guys still rip it up live. Love their live performance as well.
Yeah.
So Jim or Ken, anything from a bio perspective you want to add?
No, I think they're one of those kind of bands that just keep, they're kind of a workmanlike band. They just
Yeah.
keep putting out albums. They don't really change the style too much. I mean, yeah, in the 90s, there's been some questionable choices for music, but we'll get to that later on. But as a workmanlike thrash band, you know what you're going to get if you buy like an Overkill album. It never changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head, Ken. I think they're the Motorhead or the Saxon of
Yeah.
like the new wave of British heavy metal. When you break it down, they put out great material, and not only, I mean, Motorhead doesn't anymore, but Motorhead has so much of a catalog. Like it seems like every year almost for the longest time, Overkill is putting out an album. And Scorched came out last year on the same day as Metallica's new album.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty ballsy because I mean, everybody's kind of chasing that dollar. You're going up against Metallica. Maybe it was just a funny coincidence, but I had pre-ordered both of them, but the Overkill album absolutely kicks the Metallica album's ass. So it's like,
Absolutely.
it's just awesome, and like what you said, Billy, is just whoa. Like these guys, they just don't let up. I mean, some of the songs on that Scorch album could have been from any part of their career. It's just so awesome. And when you play the older albums, like the Years of Decay, this album for sure has
Mhm.
such staying power for today. I really hope those new young thrash fans who get into bought Scorch go back and really check out a lot of the original stuff, because it's so good, so good.
Yeah. No, well said. So yeah, a couple questions for you before we dive into the album. So first question, maybe Jim, I'll go to you to start, and then Ken after. So just wanted to get your thoughts on. I know we're all fans, so I have a feeling we're gonna go, but just in terms of Bobby Blitz's unique vocal delivery, because sort of has his own unique approach, and I've heard many people say, "Oh, I love Overkill, but I struggle with his vocals." But I personally don't. But and just sort of your overall thoughts in terms of him as a longtime frontman for Overkill.
Oh, I mean, you can't. It's distinctive, and that's what I love. It really bothers me when people, for instance, with King Diamond, I'd like to get into King Diamond. I just his vocals with that falsetto and that, and it's like I kind of look at it the same way because people I read online a lot that people will say, "Oh yeah, Overkill's awesome," excuse me, but Bobby's voice, I just can't get into it. It's like, oh man, I think these are heavy thrash albums, and I like the fact he's got clean vocals, and I love the highness of it, and I mean it's just so cool. I section him along like a new wave of British heavy metal band like Judas Priest. I mean, he's got that highs, and it's such a cool voice. But I tend to think like even Chuck Billy from Testament has a distinctive voice, and I'm glad
Mhm.
that Overkill has their main the two main members that have been since the start. One of them's the singer, because I would hate to have another singer come in, because number one, they would be kind of maybe karaokeing it a bit if they wanted to sound like it, and because you're kind of you're going to want to try to copy it, or they're going to change the sound totally. And I just Bobby Blitz is Overkill, and that's all there is to it in my mind.
Yeah.
But I love it, and it's distinctive compared to everybody. Like a lot of people out there, there's a lot of people out there like, oh, death metal sounds the same, which it doesn't. You go through all the bands you were talking about that you saw last weekend, Billy, and holy geez, they're such good, and they're all different. It's the same thing when drives me nuts when people say, "Oh, thrash metal's kind of all the same." It absolutely isn't, and this is a classic example.
Cool. Ken?
Yeah, I agree. Like he has a very distinct voice, first of all. So when you hear him sing, you know it's him. And I can compare him to a few people. I mean, not in terms of vocal quality, but like just the way he conducts himself on stage and how he sings his songs. Like I think he's kind of the steady Eddie of thrash metal. But I kind of compare him a little bit to Brian Johnson in some ways, just
Yeah.
in terms of the way that his presence on stage, how he handles himself, how he sings the songs. I do kind of see a bit of a comparison there. But I mean, I commend this dude for a lot of reasons. Like he had a stroke in
Yeah, I
2001,
Yeah.
know.
rebounds back with Killbox 13, which I love that album. It's a
Yeah.
kick-ass record, and it's like it doesn't sound like he was sick. You wouldn't, if you heard that record and didn't know he had a stroke, you just go, yeah, this guy's just doing his thing. He's out there ripping it up. So I commend him for that. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you want to compare him to like Chuck Billy, you can. If you want to compare him to Steve Souza, you can. I mean, there are some comparisons a little bit. Funny though, I was thinking that about him. Is he influential in terms of the scene? And he kind of is.
Totally.
If you listen to Bonded by Blood, their vocalist Jose Morales has a very similar delivery and snarl. And if you ever heard a band called Aggression from Spain, their vocalist guitarist Paul Luengo, very similar, very very similar vocal delivery. So I can kind of see where maybe younger thrash bands now are hearing this and going, "Oh wow, this guy's great," but you can't really. I don't think he's really had a bad album per se. I think everything he's done has been pretty good for the most part. So I dig him. I totally dig the guy.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of the same way, right? Like, yeah, he could be a bit nasally when he's singing at times, but I do like his kind of snarl voice that he does. But most importantly, is a lot of like his thrash songs. There's this sense of urgency in his vocals
Mm-hmm.
that really works well with the music. So I like that quite a bit, and I think he
Hmm.
still has, as much as people knock him, he has some variety in his voice, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
like he could do the all-out thrash snarl. He can get high. He can on the heavy tracks. He can get low and deep. But then he can also be like very melodic, right? We're going to talk about the song "Solitude" coming up on.
Mm-hmm.
Horoscope, right, which is a whole other side to him. So yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan, and like and I love him live. I think
Hmm.
he's so unique, right? Like as someone who still sees a lot of the thrash bands, there's only two guys of the old school thrash singers that are energetic as hell on that stage, and that's Bobby Blitz, and it's a Mark from Death Angel.
Hmm.
The two of them still rip it up just like they did in the old days. But
Mm-hmm.
like Bobby, like of Overkill, I mean, he has that signature. You see him live; he's done it forever. Where he's got the one foot up on the speaker on the stage. He's got the two hands on the mic, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just that signature pose. And he always goes backstage for his water, and he times it perfectly, right? Like the band will do an instrumental section, the man comes running out of the backstage, hits that pose on the mic, and starts singing. Like I just love that when he does that, right? He still does that to this day. So yeah, I agree with you guys. I think
Oh
he's
yeah.
there's a reason they've done 20 albums and still
Yeah,
doing really well. So he's a big part
Yeah.
of it.
yeah, he's great.
And I
No
guess
question.
even how about Dee Dee, right? Like I mean, he does all
Oh
the
yeah.
vocals, right? I mean, and the backing vocals are a big part of Overkill songs.
Well,
Hmm.
I think Didi's underrated. I don't think he
Yeah,
gets the recognition as a
yeah,
bass player personally,
Exactly.
because you never really hear him. You never anyone really talking much about him. But
true.
I mean, he's like you just said, he's a vital component to of Overkill because he's writing all the songs as well.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think the backing vocals are important in Overkill
Yeah.
because it keeps
yeah.
that
Yes.
thrash equilibrium of because you got Bobby that can be high. I mean, yeah, like Solitude, he can sing sort of a ballad. He could do it all, but I mean, they have that Overkill sound, and I kind of think that Dee Dee he steadies the ship a bit and keeps it
Mm,
kind of,
yeah,
kind of going in the right direction. Yeah.
that's a good
Yeah.
way of pointing it, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, good point. So one other song, I think I hit on it earlier, the East Coast thrashing. So we have the East Coast on the one side and the West Coast on the other. So question, so maybe I'll start with you, Ken. What do you think differentiates the two scenes between the East and the West?
Oh, that's a good question. So I was doing a little bit of reading on it before, because when you mentioned that question, I was like, okay, so what is the difference? And I think when you like, we'll start with the West Coast first. There's a sense of community among Bay Area bands. So like a lot of those guys had a lot of pride. They pride themselves on being from the Bay Area. They were all A lot of those bands were part of the the scene, the community. They all played a lot of similar clubs. And the one thing I can say is that there's a lot of members from a lot of these bands on the West Coast changing hands. So, like, if you think about it, you got Metallica, you got Exodus, right? So you got Kirk, who
Yeah.
started in Exodus, moved over to Metallica. You got Zetro, who was in Testament, and then moved over to Exodus. So there's a link, and then Mustaine, of course, leaving
Hmm.
Metallica to Megadeth. So like,
Yeah.
there's a connection. And even if you go like Lee Altus, we talked about last week in Heathen, he's in Exodus. I think there's a much more sense of community with bands in that area in the Bay Area. So I think that's it's an interesting point because they would all play clubs
Roofies.
Ruthie's, yeah,
Yeah.
Ruthie's, the Keystone, the Fillmore. I was also reading a lot of them had this kind of do-it-yourself mentality where they created their own logos. And also the other thing is Ed Repka did a lot of the covers for a lot of the West Coast bands. So there's a really kind of tight community there. If you look at the East Coast, I think there's obviously what we get is that they were really into the hardcore because Anthrax had it in their sound. And you can hear like a lot of these earlier bands coming. Even I read that Overkill in their earlier days they were kind of somewhat influenced by the hardcore scene in New York because the hardcore scene in New York was pretty big at that time.
Yeah.
So I could see where it's a different idea, and not maybe so much a sense of community, but more of a sense of individuality with the bands. So they all knew each other, but they all really had their own kind of style and their own ideas. Like Anthrax was different from, let's say, Whiplash, or like different, like everyone just had their own individuality. So I think that's what I take out of the two scenes or the two areas for me.
Yeah, no, I think we may have done the same research. I had kind of the exact same points. Like I also saw an interview with Bobby where he basically, sort of gave the same view. Yeah, he even said Overkill, like that first album, was definitely influenced by the hardcore scene that was going on
Oh,
around
New
him.
York.
So,
Yeah, New York was
yeah.
big for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, exactly, for sure. Yeah, no, and yeah, and like Nuclear Assault had that
Yeah.
definite tinge
Yep.
of a hardcore, and certainly SOD and MOD had it for sure, and Anthrax had it in the early days, and so yeah, no, I think those are all good points. Anything you would add, Jim?
Yeah, I think maybe just the New York, the East Coast, not just New York, but the East Coast scene. I find the bands that have come out of the East Coast might have a little bit more punk sound to them. I mean, it was so big, especially in New York in the late '70s, early '80s, that I found like you have a band like Suicidal Tendencies from the West Coast that was a total crossover band, but I find that it's maybe a little bit more of a recipe in the East Coast style, a little bit more of that punk sound to it, a little bit more than the traditional West Coast thrash movement. But I mean, to your guys' points, I mean, like Slayer shared a lot of members with a lot of bands. Everybody, they're almost, Kerry King's band is made, his new band is made up of members from every other
Yeah.
thrash band. So,
Yeah.
it's really cool because they're more of it's a real tight unit. And I think it's tight like that across. And I think it's fair to say, one of the adjoining pieces from East Coast and West Coast would be, Metal Blade Records. I mean, they started many of these bands off and then kind of put them on the map. And Brian Slagle, that's kind of what drew all this together. And but I think it's really really cool. But the distinctive sound that I get is just a little bit more of a punk tinge to it, more so than the traditional, maybe more chugging, that's found on the West Coast. So
Yeah.
But don't forget John and Marcia Zazula. They were
yes,
very instrumental with, like, getting Anthrax and Metallica together. So in the
Yeah.
early
absolutely.
days, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I mean, we don't have to go there, but do you guys, are either of you, can you sort of say you like one more than the other, East or West Coast, or
That's tough. It's a tough
yeah,
one.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think
hard.
I can, to be honest with you, Billy.
yeah,
No, I love Anthrax. I'm a
Yeah,
huge Anthrax fan. I'm a huge Whiplash fan.
yeah.
Huge Overkill. I mean, I'm a huge everything fan. So, yeah, I get pissed off with Metallica's new stuff, but that's just me. They're a legendary band and
yeah,
help put thrash on the map. I love Megadeth. I love huge Slayer fan. I mean, I just Death Angel. I can't get enough of it. So, like, yeah, I'd say it's definitely a tie.
yeah, yeah. No, exactly. I couldn't
Yeah.
come up with a reasonable answer either, so
No, me neither.
I hear you. Okay, so cool. So let's jump over to the Horoscope album. I think
Nice.
I got the right one.
Awesome.
So yeah, Overkill Horoscope. We're gonna
I
do
got mine as well.
you got
Woohoo!
okay, cool,
Wicked.
yeah. We're gonna do a track by track rundown here. Let's start with the first song, Coma. Jim, why don't you begin?
Oh, let me get my notes here. Coma. Well, I mean, this album, I can't remember. I did my rating like 5 or 6 times because there's 20 albums here, and obviously somebody has to come in 20th. So, but this ranked super high. I mean, I love this album. This album's amazing, and I'm glad we picked it because it could have been easier just to pick maybe some more of the ones that have gotten a lot more notoriety. And this one definitely, I think it's undervalued out there. But Coma starts off that wicked guitar intro. I like that kind of that gong that 1 minute into the song, and it just takes off. I mean, this is a great start to the album, and the vocals on this are just so cool. And I remember listening to it by then I was by the time this came out, I was probably already had like 4 or 5 of the, like, I would have had Years of Decay, Under the Influence, Taking Over, and but this was just amazing, amazing album and a great continuation. So yeah, and Coma is a wicked song on the album, a great start to the album,
Hmm.
in my opinion.
Yeah. How about you, Ken?
Yeah, I agree. Like, the opening is probably the best part because it's like this creepy inching
Yeah,
upwards, and then you get the gong, and then of course you get the chugs, and it just doesn't stop once it starts. Yeah, and I like the fact that they put this serious song at the start of the album. You're getting your lyrics here because they're talking about dark dreams. They're talking about, falling into, like, just how the feeling of going into reality and losing your mind. So it's like, yeah, so you could see right off the bat, yeah, well, we're going to start this off with a serious song, and it does rip. It's for an opener. I think it's in the right spot.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a great track, and yeah, I like that slow intro, right, and
Hmm.
that spooky riff, and it kind of does
Yeah,
a good job building the tension, right? Like that goes on for like a minute, and then that
Yeah,
riff comes back like halfway again through the song. So yeah, I think the whole band's on fire. I mean, we got Blitz's, like, snarl vocals. I mean, massive riffs all over this record, right?
Yeah.
Heavy chugging riffs, and Dee Dee's bass is as evident and prominent in the mix as it should be, and great double bass drumming, and all these songs, right? They're very simple choruses, right? This is like, shouting coma, and Dee Dee shouts coma back, but it's still very effective, right? It's catchy as hell, but it's still like really heavy, and there's a great sort of musical slowdown in this thing, right? At about
Yeah.
3 minutes, it just completely slows down, and then Dee Dee just sort of takes off with like a bass riff, and then the whole song picks up. And I think it's a great track.
Yeah.
And I love Bobby's scream at the end. He has one of his best screams on the album on this track. So yeah, I think it's a good one. So next track is Infectious. Ken, how about you kick this one off?
Yeah, this is still a really solid song. I mean, I think what I noted in my mind was this the buzzsaw riffing of the riffs are just buzzsaw killer. They just
Mm.
pierce. I love it. I love it. And it's such a hard-hitting song. And I think you made this point earlier, Jim, about Dee Dee's background vocals.
Yeah.
His gang shouts are great. Like he really adds to the song. And I love the gang shouts here. And I love the lyrics again. It's all about aggression and adaptability, and the idea with the idea of like they're questioning the idea of a dual nature. So it's another dark song, but it doesn't let up as well. I think it'll hold its own with Coma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jim?
Yeah, I mean that hey, 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 I love it. I mean, this has got that. This is what I wrote: East Coast thrash groove. So you asked the question earlier, and I think that it's got kind of a little tinge of punk for me in there, and I love it. But yeah, I mean the drum intro is cool too, and those guitar riffs. You're 100% right. There's just it's a phenomenal song, and it's a great spot on the album. You left Coma, you're heading into this. It's a little bit slower, but it has that chugging thrash, and it's just so cool. And I think that on this album, I mean, there's so much good songs on this album, but I think this one would best explain like maybe that East Coast thrash groove, because I couldn't see this being like when I'm thinking about what this sounds like for another band, nothing comes to mind for me. I'm not like comparing it to Metallica or saying, oh, Megadeth could do this. No. This is 100% Overkill song, and they just kill it. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Sort of another banger for sure. I mean, this thing, just the drumming and the bass, right? Just keeps that rhythm propelling the song forward. And Bobby's singing in some parts very clean here,
Yeah.
which is cool, which he could do very well, right? I thought that. I mean, you guys already mentioned this is another one all about the super memorable chorus and the backing vocals. Yeah, and again, just a good example of Bobby and Dee Dee songwriting, right? They know what works for Overkill, and this track is perfect, right? It's thrashy, it gets heavy, it brings in melody, it's got all the songwriting pieces. So yeah, I agree with you guys. Another good one. And then we got sort of another fast-paced one here. Blood Money, track number 3. Jim, why don't you start here?
Oh, it's awesome. And you know what? This is follow up to what Ken said earlier. I wrote down this could be a thrash version of an AC/DC song. So like I think first of all, the name of it, Blood Money, could be an AC/DC song, but I
Sounds
love
like
the
it.
fact, yeah, that it's got Brian Johnson. You got that sound. I don't know. Blitz's voice in this just has that. I mean, it's not AC/DC. Don't get me wrong. This doesn't sound like it, but it has those memorable little voice licks that you can hear that kind of remind me of it. And I had written this down when I did this a couple days ago, and I was like, man, I didn't realize to sit down and really dissect the musical part and the vocal part, how things give you that kind of idea in your mind. So, but I mean, I love this. It's got a great groove to it. I wrote down like super clean vocals on this one. I love it. I love
Yeah,
the liar, you know, and then there's another scream at the end on this one,
yeah, that
which is
scream is great.
awesome.
Yeah,
And I love it how it slows down and then it speeds up. And I love that. And this album, on many of the songs, have a lot of directional changes. And I mean, the songs average, I think, what, 4.5 minutes? I think most, there's some that are like
Yeah,
six and some
just over
that are a bit
four.
shorter. Yeah, yeah. So like they are taking you, you know, unlike Heathen, where the songs were well over 7 minutes or 8 minutes, this is still sort of a mini version of that in my mind, where it's still
hmm
it's giving you enough chance to hear the drums, the bass, the guitars, the vocals, the backing vocals, which are so important to this album. It takes you for a walk with it. And I like that. I don't you know, I mean, there's a time and a place, you know, for Slayer songs whipping out at a minute and a half or 2 minutes. That's fine or whatever. But this, you need to have this time frame to really get into it. I mean, it's an awesome song. I love it. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you probably hit like every point I had there. Like even the like when Bobby's shouting the liar liar, and you got if you listen closely, Dee Dee's in the background,
Yeah.
basically
yeah,
singing Blood Money, which is pretty cool. And yeah, you caught what I did. I mean, Bobby's vocal is very dynamic.
Yeah.
Everything from thrash to like more catchy melodic style. Some really good guitar leads here. And I find this song could have fit on Years of Decay. It kind of
Yes.
gives me
Mhm.
like an elimination feel to the song a little bit. So yeah, I think it's really great. And again, those galloping riffs are fantastic on this one. Ken, anything you want to add here?
Yeah. You guys pretty much said it all. I mean, yeah, in terms of the riff, it's a solid song.
Yeah.
Again, just on the lyrical point of view, again, they're kind of talking about people, unethical people, and the behaviors of people. So it's kind of the liar, obviously, part comes into the context of the song. So it's great. I mean, you can't go wrong with it. It's great chorus, solid song. I love the up tempo. It's equally
Yeah.
slotted in one, two, three. Great order. Great
And
order.
that's a great point, Ken. I love you hit it on the head, the up tempo. And I
Yeah.
think that's where I get sort of the kind of the ACDC vocalist vibe from it, because
Yeah.
I mean most of their stuff is really up tempo. So I
That's
is
right.
really good. That's great description. Yeah.
Cool. So Ken, you'll take the lead on this next one. Thanks for nothing.
Oh, I love this song. This
Yeah.
song is great. I mean, it's got some they get a little bit of groovy riffs in it, which
Yeah.
they didn't do so much in this album. Of course, they did later on in other albums, but I like how it starts. You get that little laugh from Blitz at the beginning, and then all these gang shouts come in, and then that great chorus. Thanks for nothing.
Yeah.
Dee Dee's bass is great here. I just love how he handles it. And yeah, this is such a great song. And again, it's like a pissed off song. Like they're angry at somebody or their frustrations for someone that they don't like. Obviously, thanks for nothing. But yeah, this is a great song. I love this song.
Yeah, no, definitely. For me, the Dee Dee's bass really
Yeah.
stands out on this one, right? He's all over the place, and
Yeah.
there's really is a great lead guitar run here at about the 3 minute mark too. That
Mhm.
one of the better ones on the album. But yeah, just I had groovy here as well as Ken, you noted. Yeah, and super catchy chorus. Anything on your end, Jim, to add?
You guys hit it. I mean, I had written down my favorite guitar solo on the album, and I love the mini bass solo. And you're
Yeah.
right, Dee Dee, he really shines on this, but so do the drums. This is a great drum track, and I think this shows off the musicianship of the band. I mean, there's some really great songs coming up that I'm excited to talk about, because my favorite. I mean, this could easily be one of my favorites on the album for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a great one. And we're now like that's track number four. And we're
yeah.
Yeah.
going with like some pretty good bangers. And we got another one coming up here, Bare Bones. And Jim, you can
Oh,
start on this one.
yeah, this is my number one. I've got a couple number ones. I'm just full of shit, I think. I just say stuff. But anyways, this is a wicked. You know, the kind of piano sound is really cool. It's got that ominous that ominous kind of in there, and then it breaks into the heavy drums and guitars. But what I like about it is the keyboards, the piano's still going, so it like goes on for another like minute or whatever, and I really
Yeah.
like that. They just don't end it, and they just don't say, "Hey, that's it. We're gonna just rip it apart now." So I think that's where it's got bonus points for me. Is I really like that, and I get kind of a bit of a Metallica battery vibe from it. I don't know if it's the start of battery or what, but I listened to this over and over again. And it's when the song takes off, it's probably into the guitars more than anything. But that's what I think of it. I just love it. I mean, this is one of my favorite ones on the album. And there's you're only like halfway through the album just about, and it's that good right now. So, you know,
Yeah. No, well said. Ken, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, similar like Jim, I like this song a lot too. I do like the fact the opening to me almost comes across like Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells, the Exorcist theme. It has a very similar
ah,
kind of style. That was what I wrote down. It reminded me of that. And then if you listen closely in the background, there is like these hellish kind of moans, as if like something is rising up from a crypt or something. It's kind of cool. It's in the background, and then you get the chug, of course, and the up
mhm,
tempo, and it just goes. It doesn't stop. And Blitz's vocals here are really good. I really
yeah,
like. He has kind of like this rough, edgy delivery here, and it really works for the song. And yeah, I love it. It's another great song about overcoming obstacles. It's great. It's yeah. It's I mean, really, what more can you say about it? It's fantastic.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I think you guys hit most of what I had. But yeah, again, that like keyboard opening, I think they're very good at this, right? Like it builds
yeah,
attention for when the song, it's inevitably going to break out and rip forward. But like I really like that. And that keyboard comes back again later
yeah,
on.
Yep,
And
yep.
then and then the keyboard like breaks, like it kind of dies, and then the track rips again. But this one again has just a really good guitar leads. At
yeah,
about the 3 minute mark, it lasts for well over a minute, and just the guitars are shredding. But when you listen carefully, Dee Dee's bass is weaving all over and behind all the guitar riffs. Like I think it's really cool. Yeah, just another banger, right? That's five tracks in a row.
Yep.
So we're off to a great start. And now we might slow down a little bit here. So
yeah.
track number six, Horoscope. Ken, why don't you take the lead this time?
Yeah, the song slows down, but I like the song for a lot of
Mhm,
reasons. I mean, it has like this 80s film track, like horror soundtrack vibe at the start. And then you get the riff, which is very much Metallica to me. I'm hearing a lot of
yeah,
bluesy Kirk Hammett style, like early 90s Metallica. You're getting it in there, which is pretty cool. Um, and then you get the lyrics, of course, they're talking about a dystopian post-apocalyptic future, which is kind of interesting, where all the world leaders are now warmongers. So I kind of like that for that reason. And yeah, and I do hear a lot of echoes of Metallica's "Injustice for All." It's so evident on this song, but
yeah,
I think as we were saying last week on Heat with Heathen, it's it's hard not to it's hard not to put that in when you're writing music because Metallica was so prevalent as a thrash band. Of course, everyone, whether you're consciously or subconsciously
Yeah.
thinking about it, you're just gonna have it in your music. It's just gonna happen. So I hear it here, and I kind of compare this, at least some of this album, to Heathen and Justice. All
mhm.
three kind of, I don't know, I could put them in the same little grouping. I'm not sure if you guys agree, but that's how I'm kind of interpreting it.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. Um, yeah, no, like I love this. Like one of my favorite things about Overkill is when they do these like slow grinders,
Yeah,
right, and get heavy, right? They did it on the previous album, and it's coming up here, and we'll have another track like it. It's kind of like Crushing Spiders from the
Yes, yes.
previous album, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like Bobby gets into that sort of evil, slow tone, and then the slower, massive chugging guitars. And I think it makes perfect sense, right? We've had like 5 tracks that they've ripped through, and now they sort of change up the pace. So I think this is like a welcome kind of mix. And that vocal line, it's one of the best, right? When Bobby's like, when the change is here, the future's clear. This is your horror, like that whole section.
Yeah.
Like I love that line. Like it sounds so cool. But yeah, more good leads in here. But yeah, just those slow, heavy riffs. Like I love this style of Overkill.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Ken said it best. I wrote down evil sounding.
Mm.
So he obviously I picked up on probably the fact that it sounds like an 80s cinematic horror intro or whatever. And he's right. That's a better way of putting it than just evil sounding. But that's what I got from it. I mean, it's not as thrashy, but I really like it. I like the change in it. So, we can't have every song to be, 11 out of 10. So, and this one just, I like it. It's got a perfect spot in the
Yeah.
album. You're just getting over halfway over. And, it's a great, more thoughtful song. And I think musically it's really good. This would be probably the closest thing to a Doom sounding song in my
Mm,
mind. And yes,
mm,
I pick up the Justice
mm.
era Metallica as well, a bit on this as well. I had written that down.
Well, I think the bluesy
Yeah.
kind of riffs work here. It kind of breaks it up, so I kind of like the inclusion of it in my
Yeah.
mind. So I mean, yeah, you're hearing Kirk Hammett, but I don't mind it. I think it kind of works for me
Yeah.
on the song.
Mm. Cool. So track number 7, New Machine. Jim, why don't you continue?
Yeah, this is another one of my favorites. I mean,
Mm.
I've got a one beside it. So I mean, this is a thrash masterpiece as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
The whole I wrote this down. The whole song is awesome. Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The drums are wicked, and I love the directional changes in it. This is a really really good song. Bobby's, his voice on it's amazing, and I just think this probably would hit one of my top 10. Probably would be in my top 10 Overkill songs. If we were to do that, I would assume this would be in there. It's one of my favorites, and it's just a kick ass song. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. Ken, how about you?
Yeah, it's funny. I wrote the same thing, Jim. A complete banger. That's what
Yeah.
it pretty much is. This song is interesting too, and I wanted to bring up a point here that at least I picked up. There's a kind of like a Terminator movie vibe to it, especially if when you get to the second half of the song and you're hearing the metal pounding in the background.
Hmm.
Now it could be interpreted as metal soldiers moving around because the song is about a future where we're being controlled by machines. At least lyrically, that's what they're getting at. So I pick up a little bit of Brad Fidel. He was the composer to the Terminator soundtrack. So getting those little nods that they throw in the background towards the end, I think it's great. It gives the song some added dimension in my mind. And then
Yeah.
you're still continuing the bluesy riffs. You're still getting that Metallica vibe in it, but but there's a breakdown later on, and the riff just goes off, and it's great. So it's I love how they compose the song, and it might be the second, maybe first, second best song on the album. Like Bare
Hmm.
Bones to this New Machine, they're both great songs. They're both really really good songs.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I was going to ask you guys, like, if you knew what was happening at the end of that song, like with like the metal banging, right? I've
Soldiers,
always tried to figure out what that is.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think what it's soldiers marching because
Marching. Yeah.
lyrically the song's about the idea of this is our a new regime, this is our future. So I think that's what at least that's how I mean I could be wrong, but that's how I interpret it as
Hmm.
metal soldiers marching on,
Yeah.
which I think is a great nod to Terminator.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, cool. Yeah, no, I love the song as well. I think you guys hit all the points. And I actually think it's, it's not an all-out thrasher, right? I think Jim, you said the pace mixes up here.
Hmm.
Sometimes it becomes like a mid-pace cruncher of a song as well.
Mhm.
It kind of takes the best of everything, the six tracks before it, and kind
Yeah.
of it brings it all together. But yeah, no, I think it's a great track for sure, really good and strong. Now we have an interesting one. Uh,
Yeah.
8 and track number 8. It's an instrumental, Frankenstein. Just over 3 minutes. Ken, you want to give us your thoughts?
Yeah, I love these debates when we get to the cover songs on these albums. It's funny because we're always like, should it
Yeah.
be there? Technically, I've always liked the song, so
Hmm.
it's a great song for Edgar Winter. But for me, I think they show their technical prowess here, so it's
Hmm.
great. I mean, they do a really good job with the song, but I don't think it really needs to be on the album. Personally, I think
Agree.
they could have left this off, and it's not a bad song, and their interpretation of it is fine. But I think you could have easily just took it off, went from New Machine to the next song, and it would have been fine. Sometimes I feel like maybe these bands are pressured by the labels to put a more
Yeah.
viable commercial song on there, which can go on the radio because it's 3 minutes. I think that's I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking out of it. But it's a good song, but I don't think it really needs to be on this album.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of on the same. Like
Hmm.
for me, I don't think it adds anything to the album. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't mind the song, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think they could have had maybe a better choice of a song, but and if it's an instrumental, I don't know, like what why not do your own instrumental? And if you're gonna do
Yeah.
a cover song, do like like I'd like to hear Overkill tackle something a bit more out of their comfort zone and see what it sounds like. But yeah, I agree. I kind of just jotted down like I don't think it adds anything to the album, but I mean, at the end of the day, I wouldn't take points off like an album score
No.
for
No,
it.
I wouldn't
But
either. Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't subtract in a major way, but I
No.
agree. I don't think it's needed. Jim, it sounds like you're in agreement or looks like it.
Yeah, this should have been a bonus track or been chopped like in the cutting room floor. It's a great look, great job. The guitars are fantastic on this, but if you're gonna cover something, and I'm going against everything I complain about, like cover something that with some vocals so we can. But I mean, you know what? And it adds nothing. I agree with you guys. Adds absolutely nothing. It's cool, but I would have rather maybe a minute 30 of their own, like doing their own thing and coming up with something else, maybe with a scream in it or something. But other than that, yeah, I agree with you guys. It's unneeded.
Yeah.
Cool. We're all in agreement on that one.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
so coming towards the back end here,
uh,
track number 9, Live Young, Die Free. Jim, why don't you take this?
another killer track. Another one of my favorites. I mean, this is a
Mm.
great that heavy intro with the guitars and drums that just kind of chug right along. I love it. And the guitars in this, and again, this is another one with the directional changes in the song that
Mm.
really, really keep you kind of on the edge of your seat. And that's been kind of the theme of this whole album because you don't necessarily know which direction it's going to go in. And that's what I love about it. But this is another awesome, one of my favorites on. And you come out of Frankenstein, which maybe is a bit of a like, what the hell? And then you're heading back into this. You're
Yeah.
back on the ship has been righted again, and you're back on. But talking about the previous track as well, I wouldn't take any points off that. As far as I'm concerned, it's an unneeded bonus, but hey, it's a bonus. It's there. It's extra. But yeah, they get right back on track and get right back on the horse with Live Young, Die Free. So it's awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree. For me, this is like we're getting. I think I said it last week, perhaps, but my two favorite songs on the album in a row here. Yeah, think Live Young, Die Free is like a exercise in like how to write a thrash song.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got everything you need. It's got the heavy chugging guitar riffs. It's fast, but it's also heavy. It's got a crazy, memorable chorus, a simple chorus, but it really works, right? Like Bobby shouts, "Live Young," and
Hmm.
Davey's shouting, and I think probably all the band is shouting "Die Free." It works really well, and I really like at the end of the song, like Bobby sort of does this new vocal range, right? He sounds like an evil goblin, uh, uh, like right around the 3.5 to 3:40 minute mark. Like he goes into this like a goblin mode, like at the end of the song with his vocals. That's kind of funny, but it works. Yeah. So I'm a big fan. Sounds like you are, Jim. How
Oh
about you?
yeah.
Oh yeah, this is a great song. Like it's such quick tempo. It's so fast. The chugging is incredible. I love it. It's
Yeah.
galloping along. You can't go wrong with it. They got some really good lyrics about it's like an anthem for the idea of rebellion. And I love that. Individuality and the whole idea of self-discovery. So the lyrics wrap around that song really well. I one thing we haven't really pointed out is that the importance of Merritt Gant and
Hmm.
Rob Canavino, they bring a lot. They bring a different dimension to this band on this album,
Yeah.
and it's we haven't really pointed it out much, but it needs to be stated because what they brought here was a much more technical skill or just something
Hmm.
that Bobby that Bobby Gustin didn't have when he was in the band. And I also read something that was kind of funny. Um, both Dee Dee and Bobby were kind of against the idea of bringing in two guitarists. They were sort of not, they were on the fence about it, which is kind of funny because Rob was one of their guitar techs, and then Merritt came from that band, Faith or Fear, another thrash band. So it's kind of interesting that they brought these two guys in, and every song here we're talking about as if it's like some kind of musical explosion in such a beautiful way. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think it needs to be stated what they brought into this
Yeah.
band.
No, I mean that's a good point, right? Because I
Hmm.
would think many Overkill fans were worried, right?
Yeah.
About what would happen with this album to lose the such a long time guitar player and a key
Yeah.
part of the band. So yeah, no, that's a good point, Ken. Okay, so next up we have Nice Day for a Funeral. So Ken, you can take us on this one.
Oh yeah, this is a great song as well.
Hmm.
Balls out thrash, super chuggy riffs. It's a really powerful track in my mind. Like you're delving into themes of death, like regret and the consequences of your own actions. It's such a powerful song, and it's like 6 minutes for a thrash song, and they just jam pack everything in this one song.
Yeah.
I love it. Like the chorus is great. Like I saw the last of Sunshine, and then the bit of the guitar solo at the end. Oh, it just caps it off.
Yeah.
What a great song! What a fantastic song!
Yeah, no, for me, it's my favorite.
Yeah,
It's also an amazing song live. Like I love it when Overkill do this song, and it's because of I think you hit on it, Ken. Right there's a bit of everything in this track, right?
Hmm.
mm-hmm.
It's sort of a master class in mixing up the song pacing, like, and they do it so well. You get like heavy groove, but the chorus is like stupid addictive. Like it is so cool. The crunching guitars from Heaven, and then that part, right? Like where it's like quick and fast, and then at about 3 minutes, it just completely slows right down.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
like grinding slow and heavy, right? Like, and that works killer live, right? Like that's really good. Yeah, and then Ken, you mentioned it, but the guitar work at the end is
yeah, that's great.
fantastic, right? And just the ending of the song, like the chorus is like, they're saying nice day for a funeral, but you got Bobby's like distant like cry in the background, and just such a good song. Jim, what do you think?
Same. I wrote my last line on this was song has everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. I love that cymbal or that gong.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It like
gong.
signals it. And they did it, I think, in the first song as well, the second song, and they kind of use it as a bit of a signal to speed up or slow down. I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, this has a more the riffs in this are amazing, and that you're right. We didn't talk about the guitar duo here much, but we rave about all the guitar riffs on every song.
Yeah.
It's like they're just so good. It's an awesome song, and we're heading into the last song, so perfect spot on the album as far as I'm concerned.
Yep. Well, Jim, stay on the mic here because you're next with Solitude.
Yeah, I like it. It's kind of got an interesting spot. I think it's a great song. Don't get me wrong. I like it how it's got again. This one had I think with the guitars as well gave me a bit of a Metallica feel to it, and it's 2.5 minutes before it really starts to pick up and gets really heavy. So and that acousticy intro, I really like it. I probably would have flipped these two, just being hindsight's 2020, and you'd come out of Live Young Die Free, falls out, you head into a bit more kind of a slower, heavier song, and then you finish up with Nice Day for a Funeral, which has everything to it. But yeah, it's a great song. I would probably have just flipped it in there, but I really like it, and I love it. And that 2.5 minute mark where it just starts to take off, it's just like, okay, here we go again. It's like a roller coaster ride. Wicked.
Yeah. Well said. Ken, how about you?
You know what? I think this song is perfectly placed, and I'll say why. For me, like listening to the lyrics, that they're questioning the idea or the realization of your mortality. So I think it kind of goes hand in hand with Nice Day, really, in that regards. I mean, yeah, of course, like it's got that bluesy riff, so it has a little bit more of Metallica feel into it. It maybe it's kind of like morphing a little bit into a ballad, although not
Hmm.
quite. But the guitars get introspective at times. It gets moody. It has a little bit of everything, so I don't really mind it as a closing song. Yeah, it's not a banger, but I
Yeah.
think it complements Nice Day, at least for me. I don't mind where it's placed at the end.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's interesting. So, Jim, I was having the same internal debate about because you and I are usually the ones complaining, or not complaining, but commenting about the final song. I think I fall with Ken, where I'm okay with where it is, but for a different reason.
Okay.
So yeah, so for me personally, I think it's the closest thing to a ballad Overkill has done. I think it's a very like emotional track for Overkill, right? Like I
Yeah.
think Ken, you said it. The guitar leads are very emotive,
Yeah.
but for me, this song Bobby carries on his back. This is one of his most emotional vocal deliveries, right? It's so
Mhm.
intense, and like he's singing with like an unusual amount of feeling and emotion, like especially some of those vocal runs at the end. Again, to me, I think like this song is all him, right? I think he does a really
Mhm.
good job, and so I guess because it has this emotional ending, for me, I'm kind of okay with where it is, but I also debated, like maybe you should have ended this thing with "Live Young, Die Free," but again, that's nitpicking. So,
Yeah.
um,
Fair enough.
cool. So yeah, I mean, so that covers all the tracks. Any final thoughts, guys? I know for me, this is again, we're not going to get into ranking, but if I had to rank it, it'd be an easy 10 out of 10 for me. But any final thoughts on this, guys?
No, I would give it a 10 out of 10 as well. Like
Yeah.
Same.
this this would be their most complete record up until Ironbound for me later on, which I also love. So
Yeah.
this album this has it all. It took what they did in the first few albums to a different like degree, to much greater acclaim in my mind. So I mean, people online seem to think this is their best album for the most part, from what I've
Mhm.
read, and I could see that, and so I kind of fit it in there with, like I said, and with Justice, a little bit of Victims of Deception. it's a very complete package for music, and it's ambitious in parts. It's bold. Lots of riffs. That's one thing I'll say for me. Lots and lots of riffs, and I think it's their most complete album.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have it ranked as my top, so I can say that. Excuse me. And the reason is just because with their vast catalog, when I got into Overkill, I have some albums that are a little bit more, they mean a little bit more to me for other reasons. But I
Mm-hmm.
agree with you guys in the sense that this is probably their most complete. So it checks, if I was to rank it as somebody who didn't have all this emotion with some of the first of the few previous albums when I was younger and I was first getting into them and the memories that go along with it, I would probably rank this as their best album. Checks the boxes vocally, musically, their writing, and you guys hit it on the head with the last song there, where it's ambitious and he's singing. There's not really another song on another album even kind of like that. So this album, in that mind, would be definitely a number one for me, and I rank it a 10 out of 10 because I love it. It's just I've got a few ahead of it in the sense that just they mean that much more to me for different reasons. So a pretty cool album. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not my first either, if I'm giving that. But I sort of gave that away last week. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. So let's move to our ranking. Who wants to go first here? Ken, you want to start?
Sure, sure. So as I was telling you on text, Billy, last week, that I didn't listen to every album again.
What?
I
You
just
didn't
couldn't.
listen to them all three times at least?
I would have loved to, but I just didn't have the time. So I'm going off memory on some of it, but I tried to go back and remember what I thought of each album. So at number 20, I'm going to start with I Hear Black, which has a lot of atmosphere. It's got some groove metal. It's not one of my favorites. I did listen to a couple songs and I was like, yeah, it's okay, but yeah, I don't think I'd ever come back to it very often. At number 19, I would put WFO. Um, it's kind of interesting. It's a mixed bag at times. It's got a couple songs that I don't mind on it, like Fast Junkie. The bass is cranked up a lot on this album. I noticed it's all right. It's not something I would come back to a lot. A lot. At number 18, I put From the Underground and Below. This is one of the during the Joe Como years. Now I like Joe Como. I thought he was an interesting addition to the band at that time. I remember him from Liege Lord. But he brought something a little bit different. I mean, he was singing, so he wasn't actually playing guitar. But I thought his contributions for the albums that he was a part of were interesting. That's what I'll say. This has a lot of like groove. It has a lot of like a lot of like almost like dark industrial samples, a little bit of Ministry vibe going on there because it's the '90s and Ministry was pretty big in the '90s, so I could kind of see that. At number 17, I have Wings of War. I like this album. I probably need to give it a bit more of a spin. I haven't heard in a long time, but it's, I guess, a solid album for the time. It's a recent album, but it's okay. At number 16, I have Immortalis. Skull and Bones. It's a good song. I find overall the album is just okay for me. I like the album cover. The album cover is really, really
Yeah.
cool. But the album's just kind of okay. At number 15, I have The Grinding Wheel. Um,
Oh, I love that.
Again, yeah, I don't mind the album. It's just, I don't know. The '90s period's a little weird. It's a little off base. Not like to the point where it's like they're making something totally that
Mhm.
wouldn't sound like Overkill, but just it's just okay. I just don't really have a lot of feeling towards it. At number 14, I have White Devil Armory. And this is, again, not a bad album. I know it charted at number 33 on the charts when it came out. I like it, but sort of it's interesting, but I don't know if it's like something I want to come back to a lot. Number 13, I'm putting Scorched, which we a great return to form album. Great choruses on all the songs. Bag of Bones is great. Fever, like it's a great return to form album. So I have it at my number 13. Number 12, I have Necroshine. And this is another Joe Como year. And I kind of like this album. It's quirky. There's lots of groove. Might be their most groove laden album in their discography. But I like it. I I like Joe Como. I thought he brought something different to the band at that time. Number 11, I'm putting Feel the Fire. It's all right. It's one of their earlier albums. I kind of don't mind it. Rotten to the Core is a pretty good song. It's all right for where it is. At number 10, I have Bloodletting. I kind of like the fact that they went back to more straight thrash. This is when Dave Linsk joins the band, so you could see that with the addition of the new guitarist, they go back to the thrash template, which I like for that reason. Number 9, I have The Killing Kind, another Joe Como album. This one I really liked a lot. I think it's kind of underrated, actually. It's got a couple songs that I think are kind of rip. And I thought he just injected new blood into the band at that time when he joined. And I really like Liege Lord. I was a huge fan of their 2 albums that they had, and I thought, wow, this is great that he's joining a band. At number 8, I have The Electric Age. Lots of high energy here, lots of hooks. I know this cracked the top 100, I think, at number 77, so it did well. It's pretty decent. At number 7, I know we're debating the title of Relix or Relic. Lots of good riffs here. Again, this is like a combination of Dave Linsk and Derek Taylor. Great. I love these 2 guys. It's maybe the second coming of Gant and Canavino. I don't know, but I thought this was a great album. Number 6, I have Killbox 13. Again, I think this is another great album. Lots of chug, lots of thrash. I love the Linsk and Taylor connection. I think they kind of bring the band back to more that thrash element that we had in some of the early albums. It's a pretty good album in my mind. At number 5, I have Taking Over. This is a pretty good thrash album as well. It's got like Fatal Swallowed, which I like a lot, that song. Pretty decent for me. At number 4, I'm putting Ironbound. Now, for me, it's like a modern masterpiece. Some people like it, some people don't. I think it's classy. It's kind of the resurgence of thrash. They kind of go back to something. It may not be, Horoscope Part 2, but I find it has some similar qualities. So for me, it's a really good album. At number 3, I have Under the Influence. This album, I love this album. It was the first Overkill album that I actually bought. And I love it. Hello from the Gutter, such a great song. Brain Phase, a great song. And that album cover, when I saw it as a teenager, it blew me away. I love that album cover. So like I have a soft spot for it. At number 2, I have Horoscope. We talked about it. It's a great album. I wouldn't put it as my number 1. And obviously you might guess by now, Years of Decay is my number 1, which I think it is like every song is great on that album. I was trying to compare the Years of Decay to Horoscope, but I was thinking, no, I think at the end of the day, Years of Decay is like Time to Kill, like Evil Never Dies. There's some great songs on there, and I love the production with Terry Date producing. So yeah, that's my number 1 album. That's mine in a nutshell.
Wicked.
Yeah, no, we definitely have some very some very big differences, but some similarities too.
Yeah.
So Jim, why don't you go next?
Yeah, I think we had 3 or 4 that were right on.
Okay,
so
cool.
number 20, number 20, I Hear Black, 1993. I find it's got that little bit of Pantera sound. But I do mix it up with the 90 era stuff. So number 9, World of Hurt off that album, I Hear Black, is really, really good. But it's an album I have, but I don't really visit it that much. Number 19, The Killing Kind. 96, I love the song Bold Face Pagan Stomp. That's a wicked song on that one. That's probably a little lower than I would normally put it, but that's when I did this, I did it. 18, The Wings of War, 2019. I like Head of a Pin on that album. Number 17, Immortalis, 2007. And that I think did that have Randy Blythe from Lamb of God on it, I believe?
Yeah, one song.
I did a guest appearance. So that was kind of cool. 16, Necro Shine from 99. The title track of that's best song on the album, I think. Number 15, Bloodletting from 2000. Bleed Me, wicked, wicked track. I got their newest album, Scorched, at 14. I mean, I love the title track. Everything on this album's great. It's up against so many good albums, but I mean, for them to release something in 2023 and I've got it as 14. I think that's pretty damn. It just goes to show how strong that album was. Number 13, I've got White Devil Armory from 2014. Down to the Bones, my favorite song on it. Where me and Ken were a little bit like we were fairly similar, and then I've number 12, I got WFO from 94. I could have probably been a little farther down, I think, now that I'm starting to listen to the songs in my head. But the song on that I love is They Eat Their Young. That's a wicked, wicked song. Number 11, The Grinding Wheel. I like this one. The Mean Green Killing Machine. And that's a 2017 album, so it's pretty high up there. Then we're hitting into the top 10 where I go with Relix 14 or whatever we want to call it. Bats in the Belfry is a wicked, wicked track. So, this is a great album for sure. Number 9, The Electric Age 2012. I like that. Drop the Hammer Down is a great song. From the Underground and Below, 97, It Lives. Love that song. And yeah, this is a 90s. I got a couple of 90s ones here that have crept into my top 10. Horoscope, believe it or not, is my number 7. So I know I ranked that at 10 out of 10. And I mean, it's an awesome, awesome album. It's just my 6 that I picked are all for number 6, I think is the exact same as yours. It's Killbox 13. Oh, I love that album. And I agree with you 100%. That could even be higher on this. That and Horoscope are technically probably better albums than a lot of the other stuff I have here in this. But these were albums I picked up when I was younger. Number 5, Feel the Fire, 1985. I gotta have that in the top 5. It's just so good. Number 4, Like You, Taking Over. When I saw that and listened to the song Deny the Cross, love that album, the Wicked album. I still listen to it quite a bit today. Number 3, Ironbound, and this is one hell of an album. And you know what? Yeah. It's just 2010. They broke into that Endless War, and the title track Ironbound on it are just wicked, wicked. The whole album's wicked, and this would be one that maybe down the line, if we go back and revisit, we should probably look at doing that. Number 2, excuse me here, Under the Influence, Hello from the Gutter. I mean, you said it perfectly. This is like a 2-1 punch here. And then my number 1, The Years of Decay. I mean, Terry Date produced this album, like you said. He did the Cowboys album for Pantera. And the production on it is just great. I mean, Elimination and Time to Kill. You've got, these are just awesome, awesome albums. I love their 80s and into the 90s stuff. It's really, really good. But so we have the same, and I know Billy's already let his leak. So, but anyways, so that's my 20.
Cool.
All right, cool. So yeah, it takes a while to get through 20, eh?
Absolutely.
So my 20 is probably the only, 20 and 19 are the only Overkill albums I could say I really don't like very much. So for me, number 20 is From the Underground and Below. This is just a bit too groovy for me, groove metal. There's some good riffs in here, but songs just don't click with me. I'm not a fan of that album. That's from 1997. Number 19 is Bloodletting from 2000. Again, I just don't find the songwriting memorable here. Just one I just do not go back to. I'm going to be a bit repetitive for the same reason. Number 18 is Necroshine. This run of albums here, these 3 albums, just my least favorite by far. 17 is Immortalis. from 2007. Here they're starting to come out of that groove period and becoming more thrash. So, and this is the album that's right before Ironbound, so which was a monster. But for me, there's still some songwriting consistency problems here. Like I like some, don't like others. Number 16 for me from 2005, Relics 14. I mean, for me, I think one of you guys said it. There's some return to thrash here, and I agree. Still some groove in here as well, but for me, the production is not great on this album. It's really muddy, and I like about half the album, and about half I could leave it. Killbox 13, I'm kind of the exact same comments. I like about half the album, don't like the other half, but this definitely has a better mixed production than Relics 14. For me, I know I'm an outlier here. I Hear Black for me at 14. It was an album I didn't like when it first came out, but I learned to appreciate it much
Okay.
later. Yeah, I think it gets doomy at times, and there's even some like nods to Sabbath on the album at times. So I think it's not bad. Then we go to my number 13 from 2019, Wings of War. I like this album. I think for me, from 13 up are all like pretty strong Overkill albums. Like I really enjoyed this one. Some great guitar work on the album. And again, a later era, they're still doing really good albums. 2012, The Grinding Wheel, just a good, strong, modern Overkill thrash album for me. I enjoy that. Number 11, Scorched. Like I'm a big fan of Scorched.
Oh,
I mean, I'm never surprised to like an Overkill album, but for me, I thought the songwriting was a little more versatile than what came before it. So I thought there were a few interesting surprises. I liked it, and Jim, you're dead on to say wherever this thing, I think you may have had it 13 or 14. I had
Hmm.
11, but for this being your 20th studio album, that's just ridiculous. Uh,
yeah.
Yeah.
just an example of how strong they are. For me, number 10, Electric Age, just another modern thrash classic from Overkill. Like, they just have such a great rebound with the last like five, six albums. This thing is like really energetic, and the first like three tracks just like rip your head off. Come and Get It, Electric Rattlesnake, and Wish You Were Dead. Really like that one. And this is where I'm probably an outlier. Like number 9 from 1994, WFO. I really like
Oh,
this album.
okay.
I'm
Hmm.
always arguing with people. I mean, for me, this thing, yeah, it's still in their groovy period, but like the songwriting is very memorable for
Hmm.
me. Like Where It
Okay.
Hurts, Under One, Bastard Nation, Gasoline Dream. Like I love those songs. Like I
Hmm.
think they're not traditional Overkill songs, but I think they're fantastic.
Okay.
Um, so and I think it's underrated. And then I think I'm a bit higher here than you guys too. So my number 8 is White Devil Armory. I really love
Hmm.
this. I think it's just relentless. It's super like fast-paced thrash record, doesn't let up. But I also find it has nods to some of the earlier Overkill albums and a little bit of the early punk sound in the odd place. So yeah, I enjoy the album beginning to end. Number 7 for me, Under the Influence. Um, I mean, classic Overkill for me is
Hmm.
1985 to 91. They're all incredibly strong albums, but for me, this is the weakest of that classic period, and the thin production just drives me up a wall. It's just really hard to listen to. It's like listening to, do you guys know, is this Alex Perillius who produced this? It's
You
got to
might
That
be
I don't
right.
know.
You
yeah,
might be
like
right. I think you're
being
right.
this thin, like it's gotta be. But I get it. Like that wasn't unusual for that time. But I think
Hmm.
the songs are good, but it just the production is just too hard for me to bear. Uh
Yes, it's Alex. Yes, I just
yeah,
checked.
it's gotta
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
Okay,
Thin,
cool.
thin as hell. And then this is probably where I'm a big outlier, The Killing Kind. Number
Oh,
6
okay.
for me from
Wow.
1995. I love the album. You
Yeah,
know,
me too.
tracks like, yeah, actually, you're right, Ken. You had it pretty high too.
I had number nine for me.
Okay, yeah, like Battle and Godlike, and Jim, you said Pagan Stomp, and like
Yeah.
Cold Hard Fact is just a killer Overkill
Yeah.
song. But to me, this is the most underrated Overkill album by far.
Yep.
Number five, Feel the Fire. So the first album for me, I get
Mhm.
like a good mix and new wave of British heavy metal, and that Jim, as you said, like that East Coast punk sound
Yeah.
mixing in there. Lots of energy, classic tracks, but again, the production's raw and rough, and so that keeps it from going higher. I know here I sort of fall into place with you guys. Ironbound, the best
Yeah.
of
Hmm.
the modern era of Overkill. And I'll admit, Ironbound, it was at 3 during times of the week. So
You
either
lose it.
way, it's a great song. For me,
Yeah.
number 3 is Taking Over from
Hmm.
1987, second studio album. Like a big pickup in like musicianship versus Feel the Fire, and big pickup in songwriting. I mean, this has hints of all the best that was to come from Overkill. So I think all the tracks are great. Number 2, Horoscope from 1991, and again, no surprise. Number 1, Years of Decay from 1989.
Oh.
Awesome.
Whoa, you got to come up for air after that.
Ah.
Yep. It's a lot of albums, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's what we were saying before. I can't think of another thrash band with 20 albums.
No, no, I don't think there is. I think these guys are the kings.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm sure there's at least one or two more to come.
Oh,
Oh yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
I don't see them slowing down. I don't see
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
slowing down.
I would be because I don't know, was it you, Ken, who just said how important, and I agree, how important Dee Dee is to the band.
Yeah, yeah, he
Um,
is very, very
and like
important.
right now, Overkill is touring with like what's his name? The former Megadeth bassist replacing him.
Oh,
Uh, what's his name?
oh, Dave Ellison.
Yeah,
Dave
Dave. Yeah,
Appleton.
Dave
Yeah.
Ellison.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
like he had shoulder surgery, right, Dee Dee? So
yeah,
he's
yeah.
in like a
That's right.
brace and stuff. But I
Okay.
would be curious to see them live without Dee Dee, just to see the difference. And Dee Dee's somebody live. The guy's running around like a madman.
Yeah.
He's shorter in stature, but he's like ferocious on stage. Uh,
Yep.
so it would be interesting to see him with Ellison. I think I think his absence would be noticeable.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right. I think you're right about that. He's very important to the band.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. So, any final thoughts, guys, on Overkill?
No, these guys are the kings of like the kings of thrash in a lot of ways. Just with the amount of albums, lots of diversity, and we didn't bring this point up earlier, but
Yeah.
they were one of the few thrash bands that survived the '90s. Like
Yeah.
they didn't go off like the beaten path as much. Yeah, I mean, of course, we talked about the groove and stuff that they put in the '90s, but at the end of the day, they still pretty much stuck to their guns, and they have to be commended for that because a lot of these, like look at Metallica for example. My God, they go into Load, and it's like, what is this? Insane
Yeah.
Anger, and it's like the stuff that they went into is like, what the hell? But these guys never waned. They stayed, I think, like you know, true to form. At least I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that these guys should have they're like the fifth or the sixth of the big four. But in reality, if you're looking at a full catalog, they should knock Metallica out of there because Metallica, first four albums. And I'll argue with anybody. I think that, Testament has got some great stuff. And then you've got these guys, 20 albums, and they don't, they tweak, they don't stray. And they're really true to form to the thrash movement. And I think that's really, really important. You have Slayer, who I love, don't get me wrong, who are putting out new material. They're kind of done, supposedly. And you know, even their catalog towards the end had
Oh yeah.
for some true
Yeah.
Slayer fans were definitely. I mean, I like all their albums, but there was definitely some things in there that didn't make a lot of people happy. So, I mean, these guys are still going strong, and I think they're severely underrated
Yeah.
because they're overshadowed by the big four to some degree. But I think I guess you could say that about Death Angel, Testament for sure, Exodus. So you could get in there about a lot of bands, but I think their catalog speaks for itself. It's so good.
Yeah.
I think they're the most consistent. For sure. Out of all the
Yeah.
thrash bands, they are probably the top of the heap, I think. But
Yeah, no, they're
Yeah.
definitely right. I mean, I think I said that about Sodom, but yeah, I mean, these guys definitely are right up there as well. And again, like I said it a few times, but just the energy that these guys still have on stage is just fantastic.
yeah,
It's of all those old thrash bands, they're still like one of the best in terms of energy. And like I also love like Bobby, like he has a lot of personality on stage.
Mhm.
Like he's a massive hockey fan.
yeah.
Uh and so like he there's all kinds of like I used to see them a lot in Philadelphia and New York, but of course them being Jersey, like he'd be trashing like the New York Rangers or the Philadelphia Flyers through the whole show. It was great. Like he just oozed his personality. And I remember one time I actually got to meet him. It was in Philly at the main metal place, Theater of Living Arts. And they had this little area where if you want to pay like an extra $20, you kind of get roped in and you have you're not going to get like smashed by the mosh pit. And to my amazement was Bobby Blitz was in that little area with me. So that was pretty
Oh,
cool. And he was just very
Neat.
nice and easygoing to talk to. And he was,
cool.
we were there. It was for Creator.
Oh,
Ah.
cool.
So yeah, he was there cheering on Creator, which was really cool.
And
Nice.
I'm a huge Megadeth fan too. And like I pick at them a little bit. A huge Megadeth fan. Love
Yeah.
Megadeth. But like Overkill doesn't have a risk. Doesn't have a world needs a hero. I mean those
Nope.
albums, these especially Risk. They don't have a Saint Anger. They don't have the Load garbage. And just
Nope.
not to keep hammering home a point here, but I think they need to really, we got to stop talking about just the big four, and we got to have maybe the big eight. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, no, that's fair, Jim.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
fair to say
yeah.
because they don't get enough love, and
No,
sometimes I don't think they get enough people talking about them. So
yeah,
it's odd to me, like how consistent they are as a band. And we're all,
yeah,
I mean, I was listening through the 90s and I'm sure you guys were too. Like I never stopped listening to the band. Every
no,
album,
Yeah.
when an album came out, I bought it and I kept buying every one because I'm a completist and a collector. So for me, when
yeah,
an album came out, I bought it, I gave it a go. And even at the 90s period where it's a bit weird at times, it still wasn't bad. It still wasn't all that bad. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. All
do you
right,
guys?
cool.
One quick question though. Do you
Yeah.
guys? What do you guys think of Joe Como? Do you like his time in the band, or because I mean I like Liege Lord. I thought that was a really interesting band.
Yeah, I guess I'm mixed, right? Like some of his stuff, I thought was good, and I don't know that it's him because some of the
Mhm,
albums he was on, I wasn't the biggest fan of the
mhm.
songwriting, which you
Okay.
can't knock him for. Like he wasn't doing the songwriting, so
Right.
I
No.
guess my opinion of his time in the band, and I don't know that it's his fault, is just I either liked it or I really didn't like it,
Okay.
and it was more around the songs in general I didn't like.
Well, he's funny because then he moved over to Annihilator, which is kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
weird. And I don't even mind his time in Annihilator either.
Oh,
I
me
thought
neither.
I thought he was
Yep.
really good with Annihilator, like the way they wrote the songs and the thrash. It was no problem for me.
Yeah,
So it's
and
kind of
Yeah.
remind
odd
me,
that he.
Ken, what albums was he there for again?
Oh, okay. That's like the early 2000s,
So that would have
late
been what, like
90s.
Waking the Fury and
Waking the Fury is one. I
yeah.
think he did three albums.
Okay.
Diablo. Are you looking it up, Jim?
I was trying to, yeah, just see quickly, but I
Sorry,
don't think I'm
I
that
didn't
quick.
mean to side. I was because I do
No,
remember
no.
him being good. I just can't remember exactly what albums.
Yeah,
He's
Waking the
got
Fury.
Carnival Diabolus,
Right.
Waking the
Yes.
Fury,
Oh, yeah.
and the Double Live Annihilation. So I think he only did two studio albums with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah,
both good. And they're both good.
Hmm.
yeah. No, they are great albums. Yeah.
The guy gets no love either. That's why I always find him interesting that he played in both bands. It's like, wow, this is awesome. He's great. So
Yep.
Wicked.
cool.
Cool. Well, I think that was another great discussion. So I think we'll call that a wrap on episode 6 of Thrashcast. So next week we have another old timer band. I think we've said their name at least like 10 times today.
Yeah.
We're staying in the US with Metallica and going to tackle their Injustice for All album. So I think that'd
Yes.
be an interesting
Yeah.
discussion. So again, thanks to everyone for following along the past few weeks. I think I can speak for Jim Ken as well. We're having a blast doing this, and so
Yeah.
great to sort of have folks listening in. And by all means, feel free, leave some comments, and we're interested to hear from you. And if you have any ideas or any other thoughts, or happy to sort of take up any suggestions along the way as well. And then
Review an
lastly,
album.
oh, sorry, go
Billy?
ahead.
Sorry, even if somebody has a suggestion for an album for us to talk
Yeah.
about, why not?
Sure.
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, we're starting to get some comments feeding through, so that's always good. I look forward to hearing from folks.
Yeah, me too.
All right, and then of course, lastly, thank my co-host tonight, Jim and Ken. Always a pleasure to meet up with you guys each week.
Yep.
Yeah.
You bet.
Awesome.
All right, have a good night, all.
Good night.